You're listening to Character Crusade.
Nice.
Okay.
And I'm blocking everything behind us.
Yeah. So
Me and
let's
my big shiny head.
let's take a moment to hear from our listeners about, as to whether or not they can actually hear our voices. Carl is not on with us quite yet, so we have an opportunity here to work out any sound issues that might be going on. So just pipe up, those of you who are watching either on YouTube or Twitch. Let us know if you can hear us or not. And we'll make sure we have all of this
Are they shouting or
stuff
what?
sorted out before he gets here.
Yell really, really loud.
Yell super loud from wherever you are. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Character Crusade
Yep, looks like we're
Roleplay Workshop. Excellent.
coming through.
We are coming through. Excellent.
Number
it's
32.
32.
32.
As our Jumbotron alludes to.
They can't see
32.
it. My head
your
is
big
in the way.
melon's in the way, dude.
Yeah, we should put like deer antlers on the board there for you.
How's that? Is
for
that
your
better?
head. No. Get
I'll talk down here.
get up here. People need to see you.
Deer antlers.
Yeah. So here we are. Once again, we're in the new space this time around. And tonight we got a pretty good show. We are going to start off with an interview with Voices from the Dark. We've got him on Skype here. We're going to get him connected shortly. But we're also going to hit a few other things in the latter half of the show. We've got some announcements, some updates. We've got our TAMRIEL Vault segment we're going to do tonight. And then we are going to call it a night after that. And we've got some other things to wrap up here in the studio this evening. Going to crank out some content tonight, which should be kind of fun. So this is going to be... last episode was sort of our maiden voyage for live streaming. This is our maiden voyage for live streaming with a guest.
I'm not the guest. For people who were watching the last one, it's not me.
Yeah, for those of you who were on the last
Welcome, Matt.
stream, this is Matt. This is Matt. Glad we could have him in the studio with us tonight. So this is going to be fun. Voices from the Dark. If you're not familiar with him, go out and check out his work. He is on YouTube. Look him up, Voices from the Dark. He's got lots of great Skyrim Let's Play content, as well as a whole bunch of really sort of interesting little things. He's got a playlist called Retro Gameplays or something like that, where he goes and plays old games that he remembered from his childhood. And he's pulled out some really cool ones, some old PlayStation games and things like that, which has been kind of neat. I've watched a few of those. So
GameCube.
yeah, he does a lot more than just Skyrim. He's got a lot of great content out there. So we'll get him hooked in just a minute. Jessa was going to join us tonight, but sadly she is not feeling well and was unable to join us. We hope to have her back for our next interview in July with Shirley Curry. We would love to have her in for that one. So
We're going to miss you, Jessa.
Yep, feel better, Jessa.
Yeah, well.
Huh? Yeah, get
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get well,
I thought
please.
there was more coming.
Make
out
some
of that.
videos.
Nope, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Get well.
Yeah. So let's see if we can get Carl online here. This is just kind of our live stream warts and all podcast. So when we do this one, you're getting all the behind the scenes garbage. So if we do some mic testing and stuff like that, you got to suffer through it. I'm sorry. That's your punishment for joining us live.
They're extras.
Yeah, those are the
It's
extras.
like the DVD extras.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see if we can get Carl in here and get things kind of situated.
This is the director's cut.
The director's cut. Yes.
If only we had a director.
That would be
gonna-
helpful.
Ready. He's actually in Norway. I'm not sure what that equates to in terms of time difference, but
Probably
7
about
hours ahead
7
of here.
hours, yeah.
oh man, that's a brutal time of day for him.
Well, it's midnight.
So
It is. Well,
We'll find out if he's a werewolf.
It's right on par with Dark Fox, so.
Yep.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
that's true.
Depending on where he is in Norway, it's probably still sunny.
True enough.
Since we're dealing with the summer solstice, it could be just like the middle of the day out there right now,
Yeah.
which is epic fun, by the way. We played 4 rounds of golf on the summer solstice because there was enough light to do that.
Wow.
I
That's
guess.
nice.
4.5 hours at a shot. Yeah, it was a lot. It's a lot of golf. What is it about Norway and role players?
I don't know.
It's kind of an interesting.
All right. He says he needs 1 more minute. So, well, he works out
No, he's checking us out on the live stream to see if
his
he
sound
wants to
issues.
join.
Yeah, I know. He's looking at the live stream right now. Like, look at these clowns. I'm going to bail. I'm bailing. I'm out.
Their heads
Yeah.
are too shiny. I can't do that.
Well, yeah, look at this. People, I buffed for you tonight. So enjoy.
Did you bring your felt?
This is the only way that I'm ever going to be buff at this stage. So I will take what I can
I
get.
just wear T-shirts that are too small.
No, I think that T-shirt's ideal. I think there's a certain segment of our viewership who will really appreciate
Well, it was either
What
that or
you're-
the slim good body unis.
what you're doing there. Yes, Matt is also wearing Spanx tonight.
Oh, jeez. You had to bring that out this quickly.
I'm sorry.
It's not fair.
It isn't.
What'd you do with your ABBA trousers?
Those are for next time.
Oh, okay.
Come on, you bring everything out in the first episode. We're not going to be able to do anything fun next time.
Come on, little Chiquita.
He's going to bring the little
Yeah.
disco ball in here and
I
everything.
know, right?
Everyone likes ABBA.
Everyone does. That must be true.
How
Yeah, well,
The
okay.
universal truth.
I confess I listened to a little ABBA. Not recently, but
No, me either.
yeah. I'm sure Carl's a huge fan.
Now he's never going to join.
He's definitely. Okay, it's been great. Yeah. So I guess we could talk about a few things we have coming up for the podcast. So we have had a fairly rigorously planned schedule for the last couple of months, and we have, I think, kind of gotten to the end of our scheduled set of interviews at this point. We've got one coming up here in July. We don't have anything booked yet for August or September. But we do have this one in July with Shirley. If you're not aware of Shirley Curry, that'll be fun. She is a 79-year-old Skyrim Let's Player who
Epic gamer.
is pretty awesome. She's up past 200 episodes in her story now. And so we're going to talk to her, and we are expecting Jesset to join us for that one.
Nice.
And then I think in July we're also going to have another episode, as we did in episode 31, that's really just focused on content. We've got I think a couple maybe new episodes of the 3-play coming up. We talked about that in the last podcast. The Character Crusade 3-play, where all 3 of us provide commentary to a Skyrim Let's Play. And in the last episode, you remember, we worked on generating a character randomly using Rory's story cubes.
Yep.
And we came up with some ideas. Joe and I put our heads together and have put together some mechanics for how this Let's Play is going to work, which we will share with you very soon. But we are going to record some content for that starting tonight. And so you should be seeing that rolling out fairly soon.
That's going to be fun. A lot of fun.
Now, incidentally, I have been in conversations with Rory, the guy who invented Rory's Story Cubes.
Rory of Rory's Story
Yes, and he is very interested in coming onto the show and talking to us about
think
the
that'd be
Story
a blast.
Cubes.
Rory's Story
Yes.
Cubes is just calling, begging
I
for some
know,
sort of a
right?
jingle.
I know.
Rory Cube.
We could make a jingle.
Not just a portmanteau, some sort of jingle.
Yeah.
When you're bored with nothing to do, look up Rory's Story Cube.
No, that was
Perfect. I love
Joe,
it.
the $1 million jingle
Yeah.
man.
Joe's it.
Oh, man. Does that count against my 15 minutes?
It does.
No, we'll give him extra.
Okay.
For coming up with a jingle on the spot, that's fantastic.
Looks like we're ready, though.
Yeah, we are ready. So you can look forward to that hopefully in August. We are trying to book Rory for August. And incidentally, if you haven't checked it out, go out and check out Rory's Story Cubes. On their website, they've got a whole bunch of different sets. There's a lot of add-ons besides just what we use. There's a mythic add-on, there's an enchanted add-on, there's actions add-ons, and there's small sets of 3 dice that you can add to a standard set that just broaden the scope of what you can do with them. So Rory's going to come on the show. We're going to talk about that, but he's also going to give us some pointers and some new ways of using the dice. They've been very interested in what we've been doing with them as a random character generation tool. So that should be a lot of fun. Let's see if we can get him on now.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Can you hear
me
us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay, so that's a plus.
That is a plus.
Well, since
Yeah.
he's the only one talking, I guess that would make sense.
Oh, wow. 2 people.
Two
I can hear
people.
both of them.
How about
that's
right on.
3
2 out of 2.
people?
That's 100%.
Mhm.
Oh, wow, that's
That's
3 out of 3.
130% now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome to the show.
And good
Well,
evening.
Thank you very much.
Very close to the solstice. It probably doesn't feel very dark there, depending on where you are.
So whereabouts are you located? Just kind of let our listeners know where you're at.
Well, I'm in Norway, which means that I'm far up in the north in Europe, and I'm in the capital of Oslo.
Okay.
Cool.
What a beautiful city. I love Oslo.
It is. It's really nice, especially now that summer's coming and the trees are just popping and the green is returning. It's really nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, just to give you a little rundown here, we this is being broadcast on both YouTube and Twitch, and we have an audience in both, and we're going to be kind of monitoring chat a little bit as we go along here. But this is kind of an informal thing for us. We're just going to kind of have a conversation about some of the stuff that you're doing, things that you might be excited about, that you might want to plug on the podcast, talk a little bit about how you got into it, about Skyrim, about role play, stuff like that. If at any point you need to take a break or stop or whatever, that's cool. We can do that, and we do a little bit of editing after the fact. So, we're not tied to any particular schedule here. So feel free to let us know if you need to take a break or whatever. So,
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
yeah. So I guess by way of introduction, I've kind of, been talking about you and your channel on our podcast for some time now, as we kind of prepared for having you on the show. And I think a lot of our listeners have gone out and checked out some of your content and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people who are regular followers of the podcast who have also been subscribed to your channel for a very long time. Unfortunately, Jessa can't join us tonight because she wasn't feeling well, but
That's a shame.
yeah, I know it really is. But I thought maybe we could start by kind of getting a little background from you on kind of how you got started down this path of starting up a YouTube channel firstly and getting this all going. And then I thought we could zero into some of the things that are more specific to Skyrim and some of the work that you've done there, some of the games that you like, and sort of your way of doing things. So,
Well, yeah, that sounds good.
yeah,
That
we'll
sounds
give you
doable.
the floor, and you can kind of tell us how you got into all this.
Well, if we have to start from the beginning, I think the fact that when I was younger, around maybe 2009, 2010, and I first saw a Let's Play on YouTube, the fact that somebody would just go ahead and play a game and I could just join in on that adventure as a viewer and relive these experiences that I've had myself as a kid, I just thought that was insanely awesome. And so I told myself, hey, I can do that. So I found a camera, I propped it up on some books in front of my laptop screen, and I started recording me playing a game. Quality wasn't amazing, but, you know, everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a really fun thing to do, and I just enjoyed it from the start, even though my channel grew really slowly, and it took me many, many months to even get like 50 subscribers. I had a lot of fun doing it and just experimenting with this old video making formula.
That's very cool. You may be one of the first Let's Players that.
Hello,
we
guys and
have ever
girls.
spoken to
Voices
whose
from the
career didn't
dark
start
here.
because
Welcome
of either
back
some kind
to
of,
the world of
exposure to
Skyrim.
crime or an
And
injury.
in today's episode, we are leaving Ustengrav behind.
Yeah.
So we went in,
Yeah,
we looked for the horn of
sort of
Jurgen
funny.
Windcaller, but
Yeah,
apparently
it
somebody had
was much
already been there and
smoother
taken
to
it
start,
from
I
us,
think.
those bastards. But they have left a note saying that they are waiting
No,
for us in
exactly.
Riverwood, so that is going to be our destination. We are going to be headed back.
That's right.
So you might be asking,
So what
are
was
you
the-
first person
what
on a
was the
horse?
first-
Heck
I mean,
yeah,
did
I'm
you
first
start
person on a
making Let's
horse.
Plays right
I can
away,
even
or
see
were you
my
doing
own
other kinds
body.
of videos, or was it just straight into
This is
Let's Play?
amazing. Okay, pull out my weapon as well.
Well,
Give it a few
Voices from the
swings.
Dark is my main
Yeah.
channel now.
So
Wasn't
I have
the
a few
first I ever
mods.
made. I started off
I
doing
really
some
hate to
other
start an
things I
episode
would
just
make,
talking about
stick figure
technicalities and
animations, some
modding,
music
but
videos
that
where I
is
took
what we're
video
gonna
game
have to
cutscenes
do
and
because I've been
compared
trying
to
to
the
record
song.
this
I was
episode
doing
for
some
many
video making
days over
here
the
and there,
course of
making
3
vlogs
days
with my
now, but
friends,
every
so
single
I had
time I
some
struggle
video
with
making
crashes or
YouTubing
freezes or
experience,
glitches or
and I just
something
put all of that
messes up in
to
my
use
game.
when I
So we're
first started
trying
making
once
videos,
again.
like
I
learning
have
how to
reinstalled
edit, how to
every mod I
manage
had with a
sound
few new
levels,
mods,
figure out
and
how
I've gone a
to
bit more
commentate properly. My English back then was a lot
not crazy this
it was a
time.
bit more
There's
like
no more
this. I had that
4K
Norwegian
resolution tree bark
which is something that
because
you
that
just
kind of
have
was
to
overkill, and I'm
work
just
on
trying to
over
find
time
and make my
to improve
Skyrim
on,
a
and
stable and
well,
enjoyable
now people are usually like,
experience.
I can
So-
tell that he has
Oh, you're
some sort
the
of
orc
accent,
from
but
the
I don't
Dawn
know
Guard,
what
yes.
kind that is.
Okay, here we
And
go.
that's really
Brace
cool, 'cause
yourself.
I don't want a Norwegian
Dawn
accent
Guard
to
is
shine
looking for
through.
anyone willing to fight
So
against the growing
it's definitely
vampire
helped a lot
menace.
to just
What do you
you know
say?
practice over the years to get rid of that.
KahjiitRaj has not
it's
noticed
just
any
straight up
vampire
Kahjiit
menace.
accent.
It must not be very menacing.
You're
Oh
not
wow!
dead.
Yeah, I mean, for those
almost
of you
everyone
who
else around here.
haven't had a chance.
Haven't
to
you
check it
heard
out
that the
yet,
Hall
I
of the
mean,
Vigilance was destroyed by vampires?
the stuff that
They never
that
took
you
the
do
threat
with Kajor
seriously,
and all of that,
and now
I mean,
they
just
paid
the
the price.
Khajiits, you definitely
Vigilance.
have the Khajiit dialed
Dawn
in,
Guard.
and I
Jelena
like
wishes to know more, except
in your
not really.
content how you
The
were able to
Vigilance
sort of
mostly
slip
hunt
in and
down
out of
Daedra
voice,
worshippers, which
as
is why
you
they
kind of
got torn
going
to
through,
pieces
and
when they
it
went up
just
against vampires.
Seems
That's
what I
why
like
our
about it
leader,
is it seems so
Isran, is
natural. It's not
reestablishing the Dawn
formulaic. It's
Guard.
kind of like,
Real
here I'm in
serious
character and here
vampire
I'm not in
hunters.
character and here I'm in character, and it's
Well,
so obvious
I'm
when you're
not that interested,
kind of
honestly.
That's
doing
what
the
everybody
role play
says.
pieces versus
Right up until
when
they
you're just
find their
speaking
throat being
directly to
ripped
the
out by a
audience and
pack
saying,
of
"Hey,
hungry
this, or
vampires.
this is how this mechanic
If you change
works,"
your
or
mind
just
and
like
decide to join the fight before
like
it's too late,
Deadpool, yeah,
talk to
exactly.
Isran at Fort
I'm
Dawn
essentially
Guard,
Deadpool.
southeast.
Oh,
Just
man.
a very furry dead.
Oh, what's that? You tried to decline a quest in a Bethesda game? Sorry, we're still gonna
What
add that
game
to your
was like
quest
the
log.
first-
You're
what
not
was the
getting
first
away
Let's Play
from
you
us.
did?
You will accept our
Well-
quests.
Oh, gosh.
That is the Bethesda
Well,
way.
there was a Lord of the Rings game
Here, Morthal.
on the Game Boy.
Everybody's having a good time. It
Color
looks
or the
like
Advance. I think the Game Boy Advance.
everybody's
So I was
gathered
playing
around
it
the
on
hall.
an emulator.
Maybe they
So
want my opinion on
obviously
something.
Graphics
Yeah.
were not amazing, and that was
That
on a
first-person
laptop
animation
screen,
looks
which I
funky
then
because of my
recorded
field
with
of
my
view. Hey,
camera. So
yo,
my first ever
creepy dudes.
proper
You
Let's
there.
Play
You're the one they
was
call
of a Game Boy
Dragonborn.
Advance game that I played on an emulator, recorded off of my screen.
What? Eh?
But
Yes,
still,
Gina,
to this day,
Dragonborn.
it's so much
This
fun
guy's so
to just
awkward.
look back at because I did what I could with the tools that I had at the time, and it's I don't know. I'm even though the quality is really bad, I'm really glad I made it. I feel like some people who
You're
like
not
start
very
out now
menacing,
want
you
to
know
have
that?
everything be 100% from the very beginning. And have
Okay,
everything
I
look
see how
good
you
and
wanna
sound
play
good,
it.
and, you know, that's
Really bad idea
admirable
of you to
thing
start trouble in the middle of
strive for, and I think
town.
that if you can start off with
Yeah.
great video quality and audio quality,
I
you know,
think I
that's
might have hit
a boost,
Raven.
But for
Ah.
me personally, it
Finish
was
her.
good to just be able
Good
to
job.
start and not worry too
Now
much
this
about
one.
the quality. But
Yeah, I
I
really
started
don't
off
see
with
why you
some
waited for me to
Lord of the
leave
Rings,
town.
some good
I
old
would be a much
RPG.
easier target. Frightful, Dragonborn. There are more? Ugh. Well, thank you, gods.
This is live stream.
I
fun
appreciate
right
the
now.
help.
Yeah.
I also have a new
got some
mod which lets me quick loot enemies, which gives me more of a Fallout 4 style, but I can still
figure
open
this
up
out.
this if I really want to, but
Don't
it's just
worry.
neat, one of the neater things to come from Fallout 4. Ooh, is that... It is not the healing I wanted.
Character
can't,
crusade behind
then
This is the kind of healing I
what I
want.
do
Glory is
About
behind the
you.
scenes.
move it.
Ooh.
is behind us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Bow. There we go.
Let us know if that's any better, everyone. Sorry about that.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I mean, last week was our first live stream, and our last podcast was our first live stream. And between that one and this one, I have switched streaming software and kind of basically rebuilt the whole show from the ground up. And all the tools are freaking different, and it's a nightmare. But it's sort of one of these deals where I think it was the right decision. I'm just kind of yanking the Band-Aid off as fast as I can, and here
Adds
we
to
are.
the
So-
charm.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so much charm this podcast has.
It takes some time getting used to like new software and new setups and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
such.
Right.
But in
Yeah.
the end, the result is always noticeable if you work hard enough. So
Oh,
Yeah.
it's always worth it, yeah.
I think so too, and I it sort of actually fits really well with what you were just talking about. I tend to agree with your point of view that the best thing that you can do is jump in with whatever you've got and just work on it. And I think sometimes for people who start to follow your work and really become interested in it and become loyal, for them, I think they're just as intrigued by the evolution of your channel as they are about the evolution of a character within a story, right? I've seen that on my own channel. I mean, I started out kind of the same way on a console, and the graphics weren't great, and I didn't really know anything about editing. And then over time, everything just sort of came together. As I understood one thing, the next thing became easier, and off we went. So I think that's intriguing and interesting, and I think it, I don't know, gives some life
Totally.
to the whole experience.
see it grow
you know?
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very cool. And so talk to us a little bit then about Skyrim, because you've done a lot of work there, not just Let's Plays, but a lot of interesting machinima stuff. I was completely glued to all of your machinima tutorials. Probably watched each one of those over several times to try and learn some things. Tell us a little bit about how you jumped into the whole Skyrim experience.
Well, first of all, before Skyrim came out, I heard from a friend that there was this game called The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion that I really should be checking out. And after getting that game and playing that for hundreds of hours, I was into the whole Elder Scrolls thing. So when I heard that the new game was coming out, Skyrim, and I'd recently gotten a new gaming PC and my channel was growing, I maybe had around a few hundred subscribers at the time, I was like, yes, let's jump into Skyrim. And that's what I did. I made a character and I had fun, but after a while of just, doing the quests that are in the vanilla game and exploring everything that could be explored, I wanted to add my own touches to it. I wanted to make the series unpredictable in a way. I wanted to make it so the viewer would go, but wait, that's not in the game, when suddenly a character comes and attacks us, or a dialogue scene appears with a totally custom-made character, because I would go in and use the creation kit for Skyrim, where you can make your own quests and NPCs and essentially everything. It's what Bethesda used to build a game. I would add these custom elements and weave my own story. And if I did something that wasn't the base game when I was playing as my Khajiit character, Kijor, I would add my own twist to it. I would always add my own goals and keep the viewer always surprised and try to incorporate just new experiences onto the game. Once it eventually became a little bit samey, I wanted to always keep it fresh. And that's when I learned to make machinimas, to make these scenes and characters evolve on the screen right before the viewer. So I sat down and learned some tools, and now I'm sort of teaching those on in my tutorial series, as you said.
Great.
Yeah. So did you find that over time that started to snowball a little bit, and that it took longer to create episodes as you became more knowledgeable with the tools, or did you kind of have a formula going in that you were able to stick to?
you're very right when you say that it did begin to snowball, because in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I just sat down, I did some things, and I just uploaded the result, whatever it was. But over time, as I started to get better at it, I spent more and more time. And I could go from just pumping out a video a day to spending weeks on making a single episode, because all the dialogue had to be chopped up and put into the creation kit and rendered onto the scene. And I had to set up huge scenes with dialogue and moving lips and lip syncing. It became a huge and actually just the project became too big for me, actually. So after a while, I realized, okay, I can't be doing 100% machinima stuff because I demand a certain level of quality. So at least these days, what I've decided to do is that I just have tiny little bits of machinima cutscenes here and there and some custom elements added into the regular vanilla Skyrim game. So people are always excited to see what happens. So I think I've learned my own limits, because working on machinima, anybody who's seriously done it knows how much work it is. So I'm trying to do it in smaller doses this time around and not bite over more than I can chew.
There's an awful lot of perfectionists, I think, working in this whole space. Everyone we talk to wants it to be just right. And there's a lot, I think, to be said for people wanting it to be so well crafted.
Well, you've got something in your mind. You've got this idea, and you have the tool that you can actually make that idea happen. So you bear all into it, and pretty soon you know 40 hours, 50, 60.
Yes to all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so familiar.
I thought you were going to say
familiar.
that 40, 50 hours is on the short end.
Oh God, you know
It can be.
It's the same story. I mean, when I look at Aranis Arcana, I started that whole series so innocently. You know, here's
won't
my
this be a
guy.
fun-
You know, he's level 10 and he's gonna go traipse off into the woods and do something. And this episode's 30 minutes long. Bang. You know, and then by the time I got to episode 100, that was loaded with machinima. Each one took 20 or 30 hours to make. Each episode was 2 hours long.
Or more.
Or more, you know, huge render times, forever to upload. You know, it just became unsustainable.
I'm glad that you got off that AOL dial-up, though.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God. Yeah, the 14.4
modem
modem just couldn't do it. Yeah. But it's just, you know, it sucks you in, and before you know it, you can picture the shot in your head that you're trying to get, and you work on getting that shot, and you're happy with the results, but then you look at the clock and say, wow, it took me 4 hours to get the shot I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, how long is it going to take me to produce an episode here? So I've kind of done the same thing you have. You know, I have all these tools in the toolkit, you know, so if I want to make something, I can, but just kind of looking for that formula for how can I do a little splashy cinematic and
What's
not have it be
realistic?
something that takes over my life, you know. So
Well, and I haven't seen
very
as
much
many of
sympathize.
his videos as you have. Do you find that same formula to be the case no matter what game you're playing now, not just Skyrim?
You mean me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I feel like Skyrim is really the only game that I really delved into in the same way and just said, I want to tell my own stories with this. And I feel that I know Skyrim now. I know how to do things in Skyrim. So I'm not necessarily interested in doing the same in other games. Like Fallout 4 came out, and it has relatively, you know, the same engine, more or less, than Skyrim. You can do a lot of the same console commands, and it has a similar structure. And I tried a little bit of machinima making in Fallout 4, but there were some differences and some things that were more difficult to do. And I just thought, well, I know Skyrim. I can do Skyrim well. I'd rather not bother to learn any other games, really.
Right.
So thankfully, I haven't gotten sucked into that as well.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, not yet.
What I love about your stories is they're like this really interesting mix of drama and humor. You know, on the one hand, you know, you have some really epic events going on. You've got some really memorable recurring characters, some of which have their own little mini series going on and stuff like that. And you have this kind of intricate story. But then on the other hand, you have, you know, like these kind of quirky and strange things going on too. You know, with an antagonist who's like a two-wheel cart, and it's stuff like that I find really interesting and entertaining, which is really, I think, unique and sort of fun and lighthearted about a lot of the work that you've done there. So,
well, thank you. I think some of it comes from just being generally younger. When I made, like when I did KahjiitRaj Season 1, which was back in 2012, I'd interacted a lot with just a wheel cart when I was running around with KahjiitRaj, and I'd given him a name, Dobin. And so when I was like, okay, who should be the plot twist reveal villain? The wheel cart, yes.
Yeah.
Because that just made sense in my head, and so it just became a thing.
Yeah, and that it's funny because that has kind of run its course, right? But when I was watching a recent video of yours, in fact, it was one of your most recent videos where you're playing the main quest, right? Mm-hmm. You're running around fighting dragons and stuff like that, and there's a cart laying in the middle of the road, and it's like, oh, look, it's a Dobin, and then just kind of moving on, right? And people who have watched those old episodes kind of get the reference, and
yeah, there's a lot of references at this point after so many years, like 4.5 years or whatever it is since Skyrim came out.
I know. Mm-hmm. It's really good. So let's see now. How many recurring characters do you have that like kind of have their own series from the original? Because KahjiitRaj had several followers, and I'm struggling now with all of their names, but I know that there have been a couple of spin-offs now, right?
Yes. So originally, the thing is, I didn't make KahjiitRaj have some followers and then give them backstories. What I did was that I started off, first of all, I played as a wood elf named Eleanor. She was an assassin. And then later on, I made a new series with a Breton sorcerer named NorthHare. And then I made a series with a Imperial warrior girl named Alice. And then I made KahjiitRaj. But what I did in KahjiitRaj is that I took those 3 characters I'd made before and added them into the game as followers. Nice. So people who had watched those series could now see those characters interact with my new character. And I think a lot of people really enjoyed that dynamic because they already knew the character that was now introduced to the story. And so they got this relationship with them it was a lot of fun to do. And people were like, how did you get them into the game? And minds were just blown back then.
Yeah. NorthHare was the one I was thinking of. The one I'm most familiar with.
Yeah, he's probably the second biggest character by now.
Yeah.
A lovely man.
Now that you mention it, I remember Alice now too. So,
I got a lot of catching up to do on these videos, man.
Well, there's a lot of material there to check out.
And I don't need to sleep. We've mentioned that before.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the point in that? Come on.
Plenty of time to sleep when you're dead.
Very true.
So they say.
Can I ask something from like fellow creators?
Sure.
So I released my KahjiitRaj series in 2012. So obviously the quality of those videos, to me personally as a creator, is cringy in a lot of way. Or I look at it and I'm like, Do you guys ever cringe when you look at like your earlier works?
Oh God, yeah.
Because why are you people enjoying this so much? Why?
Yeah, I know.
But I think some of it is like we were mentioning a few minutes ago. It's like watching something grow up, right? That you used what you thought was best at the time.
Yeah.
Recording an emulator off of a Game Boy Advanced with a 720 or 1080 camera isn't really going to change the experience. But I listen to my voice from early videos. I look at my gameplay. I look at the resolution I was playing, and all of it's terrible. But I was, like you said a couple minutes ago, my mind was blown just by getting in there. And I think everyone looks back and says, can I just erase that point in time?
I mean, really, I think when you look back on earlier works, you probably should cringe a bit.
No, well, if you're like, wow, that was better than what I'm doing now, problem.
Yeah, okay.
But to your point, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, this is so...
I know.
Flat.
The first series I did was in 2012, and it was the Book of Sable, and it was recorded on Xbox 360. And it's funny because I think at the time I was using like a snowball microphone that I would set up on, a footstool or something, and I'd sit on the floor with my controller and try to lean
shout at
towards
it.
the mic,
Oh, yeah.
and all this shit's going on, right? And I'm playing at the same time that I'm talking, and unfortunately, what I decided to do was my maiden voyage into making a Let's Play, I elected to play a character type that I'd never done before and discovered I wasn't very good at. So, yeah, it was like the most sort of fumbling and ridiculous mage gameplay you'd ever want to see. But that experience was what led me down the path of coming to the conclusion that, if I'm going to do this, maybe I should reset and I should really play a character type that I'm very familiar with, very comfortable with, and enjoy immensely. And that's when I got into the assassin gameplay. So I think, I look at that old stuff every once in a while, but usually when I look at it, it's in the context of somebody leaving a comment. Because I'll have people comment on those old videos, and I'm thinking to myself all the time, I'm like, why are you watching this turd? Yeah. What is it about this turd that I made that you just want to watch? And then I'll go and watch it for myself, and I'm like, okay, there's some okay stuff going on in here. Most of it's crap, but there's some good stuff.
Is that when you learned that you are not going to play another character that only does magic?
Oh, my God.
No weapons?
I've grown into it a little bit more now, but
I think there's definitely something in what you're saying in that, like, you should play something that's comfortable in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even just for like game selection, when people approach me and they're like, what should be my first Let's Play? And instead of recommending games that get a lot of views, I usually just say, a game you're familiar with. Like, if you're familiar with Skyrim, make something at Skyrim. Do a character style you love to play, because that way you're able to perform the best. You'll have something to talk about and commentate about. If there's something that's, related to something relatable, something you know a lot about and want to share something about.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
It is good advice.
Well, it's just one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, you can focus on the production. You can focus on figuring out your voice as a commentator or as a role player, depending on what it is you're trying to do. I totally agree with that. That's very, very good advice. And I wish I had done that initially, but I didn't. However, it only took me, I think, 15 or so episodes before I realized that I needed to abandon that whole Let's Play and just start over. And then I think once I had done that, I was on the right track and I felt very comfortable. So very good advice. Let's talk a little bit about some of the retro stuff that you've been doing, because I think that is really sort of fun and clever. These are primarily, these are games that are games you recall from your childhood, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have this series called Retro Replay, where I essentially take a game that I played when I was little, and the first console I ever got was a PS2. So I can like pick up a game like, hey, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, hey, The Hobbit, hey, Resident Evil 4, James Bond, 007 Nightfire. So I take a game like that and I try to present it in an sort of an entertaining manner while still going into like the details of the game, like when it was released, some info about the production, and also just my experience with it, what I think about it now, just replaying and reminiscing about the old times and trying to present it in more of like a show format, like 15-minute video where I put a lot of work into it with editing and just a script and filming and sketches inside. It's sort of where I just put a lot of my creative juices in and just pour love over an old nostalgic game.
Mm-hmm. I like that because your commentary is kind of a nice mixture of information about what the game was about and how it worked, but then also your personal memories of it and the memories that the game conjures in your mind, I like that you talk about that. It really kind of personalizes the experience as well, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, I started watching your Morrowind. Your Morrowind play, and that was it's exactly the point. It's a little bit of here's about the game, and I'm just going to present it as it was presented then, and it was fun. It was it was fun to watch, especially all the lovely looks. Oh, he's so lovely. The graphics have come a long way.
They have.
Oh yes, thankfully.
So sorry to cut you off there, but.
Well,
no, it's okay.
Yeah, I really I like that playlist. I like what you're doing there. I like the format and some of the things that you're covering. I would love to do exactly the same thing, but I haven't found a way to get a Pong machine to capture footage from a Pong machine. So
you have to do what he did and set up a webcam and
Pong
point it at
console.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, you know, there's only so many ways that you can role play Pong, but I've tried. You know,
Well, you can be
Left.
McEnroe and
the. Oh, that's
Yes.
right. You can.
I think
a line judge.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think my most
riveting
memorable
life of a
role
line
play would
judge.
be when I played the ball. Yes, I was the ball. So yeah. Anyway, that's very cool. I guess that I dated myself terribly there, didn't I?
No, that happened a long time ago.
Oh, I did, didn't it?
Yeah, we've hashed that out.
I would have probably started with Yar's Revenge because that would have at least brought you into the 80s.
Yeah, I suppose. Very cool. Yeah, I think very, very nice touch, and I like them because they're sort of informative. It's just sort of this interesting little emotional kind of throwback to the days of yesteryear, and it's kind of a fun sort of nostalgic walk back in time, which I think is very neat.
Well, that was my intended effect, so I'm glad to hear that it's working.
It is. It's working very well.
Success.
Yes.
Yay.
Very good. So tell us a little bit about some other things that you got going now that you're excited about, or the things that you got coming up you wanna plug on the podcast.
Well, right now, my channel is experiencing this weird bump in growth. I shouldn't even call it weird. I should call it awesome. So my channel's just doing rather well lately, and part of me thinks that it's because, you know, the Skyrim remastered edition is announced, so people are searching for more Skyrim content, and
Right.
well, I have a lot of that. But the thing is that on my channel, like, I do a wide variety of stuff. I'm not really a one-trick pony. Like, I have some series where I will play like a horror RPG thing on the PSP, Corpse Party, or I might play, you know, just a visual novel where it's just pictures and reading because I really love narration and telling stories. And then I just have, you know, RPGs, Dark Souls 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim. So there's a wide variety because on the channel, I don't really try to cater to a specific audience necessarily. I play what I really want to play and what really appeals to me.
Sure.
And then people who connect with that and connect with me just seem to really enjoy it. And I introduce people to new genres and games, and they suggest games and genres to me, and I check them out, and I'm like, this is amazing. So I do a wide variety of things, but like the main rule for me is to just, you know, have fun and produce a result that I would want to sit down and watch myself. Yeah. That's something I always tell myself. Like, if I make something that I can't even sit through, I won't subject other people to the same torture.
Yeah.
I think that's a common thread too.
Yeah.
It
I've
kinda
suffered
weaves
through
through a
my
lot of
music. It's your turn.
YouTubers.
Yeah. Well, I like that though too. I mean, I'm very much a one-trick pony. I always have been on my channel. It's been basically pretty much Skyrim all the way, but Skyrim from, you know, coming at it from different ways of thinking and different projects, and I've always got some kind of project going on. I like the sort of eclectic mix of stuff that you have on your channel because there is an opportunity to, you know, take in some adventure and take in some nostalgia and a little bit of horror and some fun, and you've got a lot of things like that going on, plus just kind of all the personal anecdotes through your vlogs and things like that. I think it really is a nice broad sweep for people, and it does, I think, a good job of drawing people in for maybe one game and exposing them to 5 others they hadn't considered before, which is very nice, I think. So I wanted to make mention of the fact that you recently started a Patreon campaign, and it seems like it's going well. How's that all going for you these days?
That was actually really surprising because I've noticed that with Patreon, when certain channels try to start up a Patreon, they really don't succeed that well. But I feel like since my channel's been around for so long and I've been personal in a lot of my videos, like people have, as you guys said earlier, like they've grown up with me, you know, they've seen my development and they feel this bond with me. So right now I have like 34 patrons after just a few days, and it's it's so nice to know that people are like, you know what? Heck yeah, I'm going to support you, and I'm going to help you do this even more.
That's outstanding. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So patreon.com/VFTD is the new plug I put everywhere. But it's been so lovely, and I received so many lovely messages and support, and things are just going well at the moment, and I'm having fun.
We're gonna see like URL stickers, like the obey stickers all around patreon.com VFTD.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think you did it the right way. You know, I really do. I mean, you have a nice presentation. You got, you know, a very simple reward system, nothing complex about it, and it focuses on the things that you're good at, which is producing content, you know. And I think the idea also of a sincere personal appeal, where you're talking about exactly what your intent is and what you're trying to accomplish, I think that grabs people, especially people who are familiar with your content and been following you for a long time. They probably know you well enough to understand that you're sincerely trying to do what you want to do here, which is, you know, to do it full time, you know, to do it more than you are now, certainly, to be able to rely on it a little bit more as something like income, you know, which I think people respond to, you know. So I applaud you for that. I was happy to see how well it took off. I'm always excited to see that on Twitter when you'll see YouTubers jump on like, wow, I wasn't expecting this, or hey, look at this, or wow, thanks for the support, or, you know, stuff like that. So seeing your Twitter updates was very cool. I know I jumped out there and threw a few bucks in the kitty. So I'm hoping for even more content. More content, man. Come on. No.
I'll do my best.
So what are your plans then? What are you thinking like for the Patreon community, for supporters? What kinds of things do you have in store for people who are contributing on Patreon?
Well, first of all of the goals that I'd set up have pretty much been broken because, people pledge so much. But, you know, I'm thinking of good ways to reward the people who pledge with mentions, and I'm thinking of actually incorporating some machinima into it in an aspect where I haven't told anybody this, so this is like exclusive information right here. Ooh. But essentially making some machinima where the people who pledge are a part of it as characters in it, and I'm also thinking of making those who pledge able to come with direct input or like character ideas for something that will appear in my Skyrim series, where it's like, hey, Dark, I'm wondering if you could add a Dark Elf named this and this, and he could have a role. And I can be like, sure, and then I can incorporate that into the story and try to make my Skyrim series more interactable, I suppose. Right. Because I did that a bit in KahjiitRaj Season 2, where I was like, okay, I need an army of characters, but I want them to be diverse. I want you to send me a screenshot of your character and give me some info on their gear and their skills. And I implemented a few hundreds then fan-made characters and just spawned them all in and had them stand in a line. And the reveal of that was just amazing because it was just hundreds of fan-made characters. It took me so long to make, but when the end result was there in front of me, I was just like, yes. So I find that a lot of fun to do. So I'll probably try to incorporate my Skyrim knowledge into the mix somehow.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. So I noticed that recently you were struggling a little bit with Skyrim. As we are all wont to do when it comes to mods and so forth. One of the things I noticed about your recent series was that the game looks better than ever. I mean, it really, you really got the graphics dialed in. The last episode I watched, I was just really impressed with how lovely the environment looked. So have you kind of rebuilt the whole thing from scratch, or did you just pull a bunch of stuff out and kind of start over, or what was your approach? I know recently you were struggling a little bit, but I don't know if that has to do with the gameplay you're doing now or if that was something else. Well,
so I had posted my mod list, and Jessa from the Jessa channel found that mod list, and she was like, Carl, we need to talk. So we got in the Skype call, and she gave me a stern talk about my mod list and how messy it was and how I don't need to have 4K resolution for tree bark. And after
Why
that,
not? Tree bark is important.
I know.
Yes.
So after that, I just uninstalled all the mods, reinstalled Skyrim, and just did mod by mod, organizing them, finding efficient mods that seem to work and don't break and don't conflict, and just being super careful, enabling mod by mods. and decided to not use an ENB this time. And an ENB makes, the graphics of Skyrim look really nice, but also usually big performance impact.
Right.
Yeah.
So I found some different mods that just tweak the visuals of Skyrim so I can remain at like a steady frame rate and keep it more stable while still looking good. So I had a lot of help from Jessa. So I was really hoping that she would be on today so she could also tell that story. But
maybe she doesn't have any other pointers for your mod list yet. Maybe she's working on that.
Yeah.
She knows her stuff.
Why.
Yeah,
she really does. Like what I find about Jessa's stuff, it's the fact that like she's really good at role playing. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm that good at role playing because I'm never 100% role play. I'm always like I can be a little bit of character, but then I'm back to commentary. I never take it 100% seriously because I just prefer the whole switch between commentary and character style. But what I choose to focus on instead is, the machinima parts and the custom content. So me and Jessa had to talk about that and how we like focus on different aspects and how, we can learn from each other and like take tips here and there. So getting the feedback on my mod list and having a game that now runs rather well and looks rather good is really good. Even though YouTube's encoding when you upload it makes it look a little yucky. But still, that's just, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, the final video never looks quite as good as it does, in the raw video on your desktop as you're looking at it, which is unfortunate. But, still, you can definitely tell the difference when somebody is doting over their mod list, and really curating that stuff. Joe's spent the entire weekend going through the same process himself.
Are you using 4K tree bark, by the way, Joe?
Not with my onboard graphics card, no.
No, that's only for his Beaver playthrough that he uses the 4K bark. Yeah.
No.
So I got this interesting text message from Joe over the weekend where he's gone through all this stuff, like reset everything, reinstalled everything, and he got to a certain point and he's like, oh, it was just going so slow, so I just started dumping mods in because I ran out of patience, and now my game won't run. And he said, I did it to myself, damn it.
Pretty much, yeah. I tried to start out with the step and follow and be a good boy, but there's just too much good stuff out there. So
it's like not reading the
manual. Throw it all in.
Don't read the manual, just fire up the power tools, right?
Yep, we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, right.
Well, it is running up now, so I did get things squared away. So
yeah,
good job, Joe.
Back up and running.
And you actually don't need that many mods to give it a new feeling. Like what I did recently was that I installed like a couple of mods that really changed it. Like I used Customizable Camera, which put the camera behind my character, sort of like when you're in combat, but just when you're walking around constantly. And I have like the quick loot, which gives you the looting system of Fallout 4, and new fonts for the game, and just that alone, and the game just it feels slightly more fresh, and it's really fun because I'm playing through the main quest, as was touched upon earlier, because I haven't actually finished a main quest of Skyrim. Shh, don't tell anybody. I played for almost 800 hours, but I still haven't done the main quest. So I'm finally doing that, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And the new mods are just, they're making the experience feel fresh again, which is really important to me because, well, I think all of us here have had the moment of, Skyrim, really? More of that. But when you just have some time off from it, then like your love for it really comes back, and then those new mods and new content to do, it really just refuels the fire that was there from the beginning, at least for me personally.
Yeah, I agree.
For a guy who's up in the middle of the night, he is just exuding energy about Skyrim right now.
Yeah, right. Well, I've noticed too. Of course, when Skyrim first came out, there was a whole glut of, videos and Let's Plays and channels that were focused on it. Most of those have gone away, and the few that remain are those of us diehards who are still making videos having to do with this game. And I've noticed that of that group, there seems to be a tendency now for all of us where we're sort of resetting and dialing back the number of mods. We're simplifying and focusing more maybe perhaps on story rather than trying to have every little damn experience loaded in there from every little mod, right? Like being more selective about the story we want to tell and the mods that are appropriate to telling it. I know that's the case for me. I'm doing that, and I'm excited because, you know, the direction that I'm going, I've just chosen mods that I think are very specifically good for what I want to focus on now, and it's significantly less stressful reducing that mod list, feeling like I don't have to try and curate quite so many things.
Save a little time.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run around 230 mods, you know.
Oh.
I still have like 6.
Yeah. I feel like I'm doing good because I'm down to like 140 or something.
Oh my
like that.
word!
So to me, that feels simple. But
You really should consider some 4K tree bark, though.
I'm going to have to look into 4K tree bark. I'm pretty sure my frame rate will drop to about 1.
oh, that'll be great. It'll be like a slideshow.
Yay!
It'll be the world's slowest GIF animator.
yeah. It'll be your special thing. It'll be your signature. Like here's Skyrim through a ViewMaster.
Yeah, but you know what? It will be sort of like we talked a little while ago. And Carl, I apologize if you heard this on one of our earlier podcasts about the slow television from Norway when they did the cruise ship up the coast. I would think that if I were to do 1 frame per second, I would probably have people just waiting with bated breath. Something exciting will eventually happen.
What's coming next?
Oh, I think I saw movement. Oh,
Yeah, that Nord just took another step.
look behind you. There's a wolf. Oh, it's going to take 40 frames for him to realize.
Yeah.
Tune into the next episode where when I am turned around.
Well, that's all we have time for today.
We're sorry we've made a super long 90-minute episode, but we've gone through 170 frames.
Frame by frame. Oh, I love it. Well, you know what you do is you just set that to record and just let it run overnight, and then you use some time-lapse kind of software
There
to
you go.
piece them together.
Exactly. And then I would
And then
enjoy the
like,
game, maybe.
It'll be like watching the old Rudolph animations, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
the claymation.
The claymation, yeah.
This is my entire mod list right here, by the way. That's it.
Oh, that's respectable. That's respectable.
I have to be running House of Troubles. I can't not.
You got to run that,
Well,
yeah. So I want to get Carl's input on the remaster. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I find the thought of, mods on consoles really cool. Like when I heard that for Fallout 4, I was like, hey, that's really neat. And from what I've gathered, the remastered version for PC is more like a free update that you get, which does some significant improving to like the game engine and like the capabilities of it. So it's not as limited, but it will break a lot of mods and it will break the Skyrim script extender, and it's going to take a while to get back on track. Like a modded game right now is probably going to look a lot better than the new Skyrim remastered on launch. But overall, I'm rather optimistic about it because the limitations of the current Skyrim are really getting to me, because I've been troubleshooting Skyrim for days, trying to not have it crash when I go over a certain amount of VRAM used. So having that limitation removed, I'm looking forward to what is like the general opinion of the remastered edition here.
Yeah, I think the consensus for us has been kind of the same. I like the idea of I like what it's going to do for PC players, because there's this argument, we've talked about this before, but this argument about, well, we can already do all this stuff, with mods and things like that. I guess when I think about it, if I could get way better graphics and performance out of this game right out of the box, that's just that much less that I've got to do with mods, and more time I can spend focusing on story. And I love the idea of expanding the community. I think that provided that Bethesda can sort out this whole mod theft situation by the time that we are able to see mods on console, I think it could really have a big impact on the number of players that we see enjoying the game in new ways and actually coming to take in our content as well, and learning, I think, from some of the things that we've been working on for years. So I'm just excited about the potential for new voices. And I think that it's also intriguing to think about how an individual could buy a next-gen console and get into the game and use the streaming software that's native to the console to start, producing great Skyrim content as well from the console. Much easier than it used to be, for example, on the 360. When I started on the 360, I had to have, an external piece of hardware to do it, and it was a lot going on. It's going to be much easier for people to jump into producing their own interesting Skyrim content and to be able to create stories now with the benefit of having mods to support those stories and things.
I think there's going to be a huge amount of extra content published.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's going to be a lot produced. Just because you've got the ability to stream your gameplay doesn't necessarily mean that you're producing something other than turning your machine on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think we're going to see an interesting maybe separation between the storytellers and the people who are just playing because they want to get through the game, right? I'm going to finish Skyrim, and then I'll move on to something else.
Right.
Which is, again, we get back to I want it to look great. I want the experience to be really good. Just because you can stream it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be as enthralling.
I think so. I think I agree with you, but there's always a group of people out there who are interested in doing more than playing the game. And those are the individuals that I'm really excited to see have an opportunity to get their hands on the tools required to create a story that's more their own.
Right.
Which I think is very cool. So
yeah, like when you release something like this, there will be a lot more people exposed to it. And yeah, most of them are probably just going to stream it in like short videos that aren't really of any specific, they're not noteworthy, but in that mix, there's definitely going to be individuals who are like, I want to do more with this, and I want to experiment with this and have fun with it. And I think it's going to help, the channels that focus on Skyrim-related content, because it's going to be something that people play, and therefore people are going to be wanting to watch more. I mean, I'm already seeing the subscribers and the video views have increased since the announcement. So I think that it's going to be a really positive thing overall.
I think it's going to be huge fun, honestly, to watch the growth in the content, but also because I think getting people engaged in the game. My kids are really interested in the game now, too, so that'll be fun to see what it's like when they can experience it a little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very cool because we'll have there's a whole class of people, I think, who have been dying to sort of have a more personalized experience, but just aren't in a position to buy a PC, or their preferred method of playing is with a controller laying back on the couch. Now they can do that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's something interesting, I think, also about the idea of just loading things into Skyrim and then going into the environment and checking them out. That's almost as fun, just as fun as playing sometimes, to find a really cool mod, load it up, and then just go and walk around and check out the workmanship.
Right.
You can do that kind of stuff, which will be
Yeah.
pretty cool. Granted, it's going to be a bit more limited, but still,
In the beginning, you never know what'll happen after it.
Yeah, you never
gets
know, I guess.
A little bit of time behind it, right?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows where it'll go? But you got to start somewhere, and here we are. So I guess this is a good thing.
Well, and then they're talking about the next Xbox is going to have, I'm going to be the nerd that says it's 6 teraflops of video processing power, which I think is crazy. I mean, this is supercomputer level processing so that we can have great video games. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah. They don't mention how much that's going to cost, but
no. But hey, we said 6 teraflops. You should realize that's very expensive.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think we have taken up close to an hour of Carl's time here. We've got some listeners who are interested in asking a few questions. Are you open to staying on a little longer, Carl, and taking some questions from our listeners?
Yeah,
/
I'd love
viewers.
To.
Okay, great. Oh, great. Do you need anybody need to take a little break here before we launch into this?
I'm good.
Okay.
All right.
If he's good, I'm good. So let's have them, people. Go ahead and post some questions. If you could, maybe post those in the chat stream on YouTube. That seems to be where the most activity is right now. And I think it'll just be easier for us to take them there. So feel free to go ahead and put those in. One question that I did see kind of passing through earlier was someone was asking how do we feel, I'm assuming the four of us, about some of the malicious mods that are being put out. I'm assuming they're talking about some of these mods that are coming out for Fallout that I think there are some modders out there who are intentionally booby-trapping some of their stuff because of all the theft that's been going on as a way of sort of retaliating for some of that, unless there's other things that are going on that I'm not aware of. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel, as a modder myself, I'm always, well, even before I was modding, I was producing other kinds of content, and I've always been protective of my content because I felt like, hey, you know, this is mine. I've taken the time to develop it. There have been some times in the past when I have gone after people with cease and desist kinds of things when they were stealing graphics and using my graphics on their website or passing them off as their own, stuff like that. So I can kind of sympathize with wanting to protect your content, but I guess my feeling is it's one thing to say I'm going to withhold my content until Bethesda.net figures this out, and putting my content up with something in it that will screw up people's save games as a way of sort of retaliating for that kind of stuff.
Here, come use my stuff, but it's going to hurt.
Right. I think the argument has been that what that would force people to do is it would force people who are downloading mods to take steps to ensure that the mod they were downloading was legitimate and came from the actual author. However, I think what that's doing is it's targeting the wrong people. It's targeting the people who want to use mods, not the people who stole mods in the first place.
Exactly.
So that's my view on that.
Punishing the wrong people with
Yeah.
that thought process.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else we got? Here's one for you.
For Carl?
For Mr. Carl.
Okay.
Someone's wanting to know if they're going to start watching your Skyrim role plays. Where do you suggest they start? Do you have any?
That is a good question. So, you know, personally, because I'm a perfectionist, I would prefer you start with, you know, the newer stuff. But I feel that depends on the viewer itself. So, like, my big series, my success series is KahjiitRaj, K apostrophe JOOR, KahjiitRaj Season 1, and then Season 2, which is mostly just a role play with the Khajiit and some machinima on top of that. It's from like 2012, 13, so... But if you just want to jump in and see my current level of Skyrim and see my playing style to determine if you would like to watch more of me, I would say jump into my latest Skyrim series called The Main Quest. You can find it on my channel page where I play through the game, having a lot of fun with a new Khajiit character, implementing everything I know about commentating and some machinima tricks here and there, and trying to make a enjoyable series in 2016 in Skyrim. And if you enjoy that, I have an Elder Scrolls playlist that you can go back and, you know, pick and choose what you want from. That's
great.
I'm just so tempted to go back and watch all the really old ones.
Yeah. We'll call it retro Let's Plays, and Matt can provide critiques.
Oh, that would be fun.
No, don't watch.
Nobody
mine,
would
please.
listen to it, but that's all right.
Oh yeah.
For anybody who's looking on our Facebook page, I'm going to put a link right up to the Voices of the Dark, the Main Quest playlist, so that you can get through those as quickly as possible.
That is very kind.
All right.
Hey, everyone deserves a little, dessert.
A little link here and there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
What else we got, Joe?
I guess this could probably go for anybody here. Are there any YouTubers that you would recommend for similar content? I mean, who do you guys like?
Well,
one popping up is definitely Rycon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
yes. Gamer Poets.
And
Gamer
Jessa.
Poets, Jessa, Gopher.
Jessa, Gopher, yeah.
Mhm.
You know, that's the thing, though.
It depends on the kind of story you want.
I know.
Yeah, what do you look? Because everyone's so. All of those present themselves so much
Right.
differently
Absolutely.
from one another.
And there are a lot of YouTubers out there who are creating really interesting content in Skyrim, but who just don't have the subscribership.
Right.
And every once in a while, you'll stumble across one and say, "Wow, where have you been?" You know, where some that come to mind, for example, are Nyissa. I mean, she's got a great body of work out there. She's got a very small following, but she's created a really great Let's Play focused on a bard character, and she's been doing that forever and religiously putting out episodes that are really good quality. But she just, you know, a lot of people haven't heard of her. So I would say get out there and dig. Just dig. I mean, there's obviously... There's a few out there that are more well known, but I think if you dig deeper, you're going to find some other content you really like too, and some really unique perspectives.
How do you spell that?
Nyissa, I think I want to say it's Nyessa.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Nyissa Gaming
yeah.
on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Nyissa Gaming. Yeah.
I have something to check out then.
Yeah.
But see, that's some of the fun about this whole thing. Even folks who are doing this a lot
You just kind
are
of follow
still
the
finding.
the rabbit trail. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
let yourself get lost.
Yep. And if you're listening, Nyissa, we are going to have you on the show eventually. So get ready. Get ready. But yeah, I mean, I think that's great. Michael, of course, from Gamer Poets, he's got a really interesting and fun perspective.
I guess
on
we probably
things, too.
shouldn't forget about Shirley.
Shirley,
Yeah, right.
Shirley Curry. She's a blast.
You know, I'll just put a bunch of these links out on the Facebook page so people can get out there and see it all.
Yeah, we can do that.
Please do. What else we got?
What did we have? I think. Do we need to scroll down a little bit?
No, I think it's all caught up at this point.
Okay. How about characters? What types of characters are your favorites to play?
Oh.
Question is posed as character class, but I think we can kind of broaden it.
Okay. Okay.
I know from your early works, I'm going to guess that you, Stu, probably would lean towards that kind of assassin stealth type of character. Early on.
Yeah,
I think you've probably been working your way out of it, but
I tend to default in most games to stealth type of characters.
yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Is it just something like intriguing about sticking to the shadows and making this just badass character that just exhumes just something like make them intriguing or mysterious in a way, and just assassin or rogue or just a bow and arrow user. It fits that style rather well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a much more eloquent way of putting it than I was going to. I was just going to say you get tired of getting your ass kicked, so you go and hide.
Well, true, because Skyrim NPCs are essentially blind. So you can just hide in the slightly dark corner and they forget about you. So must have been the wind.
Yeah, I've always liked that too.
Guess I scared him away.
The idea that there's just a slight rustle of the leaves and the arrow comes flying out of the forest and no one sees where it came from, but somebody drops dead and it's over. You know, that kind of mysterious thing. And I find myself tending to play that way no matter what game it is I'm playing. I've gone into some games that were shooter style games where I'm obviously playing a character that's built to be a tank, but I'm still playing in a stealthy kind of a style. So I have trouble getting away from that play style, but I really enjoy it a lot. So what else?
All right, here's a good one. How did you develop the stories of your characters, like Martha and Fleet?
Marthar.
Excuse me.
Okay, Marthar and Fleet.
Well,
you go ahead, Carl. What do you got?
Well, when it came to Marthar, I usually just start with an idea. Like I would first of all, it's like, I want to play a sorcerer. Okay. What race? Well, a Breton would be cool. And then the age, and then, okay, what personality? Like I start like checking off the list and finding it. And then I think, how can I make it interesting? So for Marthar's case, it was the fact that he loved to drink and he would often get into trouble and he wasn't always very smooth with the ladies. So there was a lot of trouble on that front, and just developing a personality, and just through play finding things that happens in the world, events that happen, and you as a commentator have to react to that in the way that a character would react, and from that you learn the character as you're playing it, because you don't always necessarily have all of the details from the very beginning. Sometimes things happen during play that helps shape your character. So I just set off with a few points about my character and then see where it goes from there and how he develops as I play him.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I mean, with Fleet, I started that character with basically the nugget of a concept, and that was his story of arriving in Skyrim, why he was there. And that, for me, that was kind of the seed of his story that grew over time. So at the beginning of that playthrough, I understood that Fleet was essentially fleeing to Skyrim to escape his father. And with the seed of that idea, I began to grow it through the course of gameplay and through journal entries and letters and stuff like that. So, and things started to build upon themselves. So when I finally got to that point where I got to an episode where I said, okay, it's time for us to hear Fleet's voice, and we're going to hear his voice through a letter he's writing home to his father, I sat down to write that letter. And when I was done with it, it came out, I think, with a lot more venom and a lot more sarcasm in it, and a lot more angry emotion than I had originally anticipated. But that's how it came out. So I just went with it, and then the story kind of rolled from there. And then I had to think about, where does the venom come from? What's the story behind this? And it's sort of like a snowball rolling downhill. You just keep adding the pieces on as they make sense. And what I love about this particular way of telling a story, what I've been doing on my channel and what you've been doing on your channel, Carl, is it's a really unique opportunity to interact with your audience as you're creating something. So unlike a book that is written and it's done and it's presented to the world and they're left to interpret, you get all this interesting feedback and interpretation of what's going on in the story. As the story's unfolding, they're anticipating what's coming before you've even created it. And there were times when that allowed me to do things like, take right turns that I wasn't planning to, but when things came up in conversation, I thought, that is an opportunity. That's a great idea, or that plays well into something else I've been thinking about. So this medium as a way of telling a story is completely unique in that way, which I really love. So
those are some very good points.
Cool.
What else we got?
Here's one, this could be an interesting one. What makes a character from a video game unique, NPC or your own? What I guess maybe another way we could phrase that is, what attracts you, or what do you find interesting about characters you run across? Or we kind of just covered our own PCs.
To me, like
the last question, but
the characters that really stick with me are the characters that do stand out a bit. Even like, how you will always remember Cicero's voice from Skyrim because he talks like he's a madman and he has this personality. He has a very strong. I really enjoy characters that are a bit out of the ordinary, but like really just owns it and just nails it. And especially like when it comes to voice actors, I feel like they play a big role for me personally. If they have a voice and personality that I find really appealing and something that's different and not just generic white guy with brown hair in a shooter, if it's something that stands out a little bit and just hits that spot of this guy or this girl, is just they're so cool, and I want to either find out more about them or make fan related things. Something that just hits my spot. I know that's not very specific, but that's just, personally.
Yeah, it's a tough question to really nail specifically on. We kind of covered that when we went over some of that Dogrilon from Interesting NPCs.
Yeah.
For me, he's a character like that, where he's just unique and apart from all the NPCs that it makes him memorable. I mean, he has this cool backstory that he'll explain and give you dialogue for. He's got a really well-voiced part. Just basically kind of just reaffirming everything you just said. Is the voice acting done well? Is the dialogue good?
Well, there are far too many that just blend into the background, and you don't. There isn't anything that you would say,
really
"Hey, you've got to go in and play
separate
this
them from the guard." I mean,
right?
Well, because everyone wants a sweet roll.
I think the characters that are most interesting are, as Carl said, characters that have some kind of a quirk or personality trait that's unique, and characters that are nuanced. You know, like that's what I like about interesting NPCs is the characters that are introduced by that mod have stories, you know, and they have stories and they have distinct personalities, and there's a lot more depth there than I think what you see in most of the vanilla NPCs. So I look for characters that have some kind of a past. So if you're looking for that, interesting NPCs is one of those that does that in spades. There are a lot of characters in there that are quest givers. You can have these lengthy conversations with them and learn these interesting things about their stories and how they came there and who their families were and who they're in contention with and who they loved and lost and all this stuff.
I like hearing it, but I never retain any of it because I'm so busy trying to figure out what I've got to do as soon as they're done talking. What was I supposed to remember?
Yeah, and am I wearing armor? Let me check.
Always bringing that up.
I know, right? You'll never live it down, man.
Sometime I'm going to bring the helmet, and that's it.
Yeah. What's next? Did we got some more?
I got a couple more. Any favorite quests?
Ooh. How about you, Carl? What do you like?
So we're talking Skyrim?
Any of the
Anything
Elder
Elder
Scrolls
Scrolls.
games.
Yeah.
Do you have a selective favorite quest that you like to do?
Well,
Or have enjoyed?
For me, like a lot of the most fun quests I do are sort of the ones I make myself, because a lot of the times it feels like quests are, you know, a bit forced on you sometimes in Bethesda games. So
a little mechanical,
what I really enjoy is that when I'm out in seemingly the wilderness or the middle of nowhere and just like a person appears or I find somebody in a house who has something, just quests that are in unexpected places. I don't have a specific example in mind right now, but quests that are a bit out of the ordinary and out of the way, you have to seek them out and find them because they feel so much more rewarding. You're like, I went there and I figured it out by myself, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
I also have not finished any of the main quests, so you're not alone. But there's so many things but there's so many things that you can do. I mean, I don't have a favorite because I haven't done enough of them to really, find one.
Hard.
But they're so different. They're so varied.
Yeah.
Some of them just scare me, right? After watching you guys play, I don't know that I have enough spell casting to remember to keep enough light that I'm not going to get eaten by those spiders.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I guess the quests that have been most memorable to me are the ones where I have been telling my own story in between the seams of those, to kind of hold them together in my own way. So when you're doing that kind of thing, something like the Dark Brotherhood quest line can feel even more sinister than it already is.
Right.
So I would have to say Dark Brotherhood questline is probably my favorite out of the box. I just think there's an awful lot of interest going on there.
There's some interesting things there. I remember back when I first played the Dark Brotherhood storyline, which was in like November 2011, just when it came out, and I heard that we had to assassinate that one particularly important person. I won't spoil it, but when I heard who we were going to assassinate and what he meant to, everything, I was just like, that is so cool. That is such a big, that really excited me. And I was like a little girl, like, oh, yes, let me kill him. And in Oblivion also, where you get the quest to purify the, it's sort of spoilers, but yeah, the Dark Brotherhood has some interesting quests, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, of the vanilla quest lines, for me, that's one of the deepest. I mean, one of the most impactful, for sure. For as far as other quests like quest mods and stuff, I found myself really enjoying Worm's Tooth.
I was just going to bring that up. That's It's not part of the. It's a mod quest, but it's probably one of my more. It's been a while since I've gone through it, but it is a fun and pretty well done.
Yeah.
Quest line. So.
I'm not even certain it's available anymore.
Oh, really?
I thought he may have pulled it down for temporarily, or I don't know, but that one was really a good one too. So
sure. How about least favorites?
Least favorites.
Least favorite quests.
To be honest, for me, it would probably be the Mage's quest.
Yeah,
but why?
It's too short. It doesn't seem realistic that you would go on a couple little errands and then suddenly you're the Archmage.
Yeah, there's.
I don't know. I can't reconcile the end with how you get there because it just isn't enough in the middle. The quests and the tasks and all that themselves are well done. They can be fun. I mean, dungeon crawls can be a lot of fun and all that, but just as a whole, it's not fleshed out enough for my liking.
I can understand that. I mean, even when you think about like the Companion's quest, right? That one, the things that happen toward the end of that quest, it's probably shorter. It's a shorter one, kind of like the Mage quest line is.
Right.
But it has a much deeper emotional impact on you.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was doing the Mage quest line, I didn't feel connected to any of those characters and never felt like I gave a rip. I didn't.
Right.
I didn't care about their welfare or their well-being. There was never that connection with them. But in the Companion's quest line, when things kind of hit the fan there towards the end, I really felt connected to those other characters and had a desire to want to defend them and avenge them and all that kind of stuff. So I think I would agree with you. I mean, that's probably one of my least favorites.
Got a couple mentions about Skyblivion. Either you thinking of maybe picking that up as a Let's Play?
I think we should hear from Carl on that because I've never played Oblivion, so...
Oh, then you have a game you need to play, mister.
Yeah, that's what people keep telling me, and I'm having so much trouble getting past the potato face people.
I was about to say, you need to be able to get past the horrible faces. The second you boot up the game, you have this old man just staring you down saying, I dreamt about you last night. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
and if you can get past that, it gets better. So
maybe you can give me some pointers because I look at the graphics of the potato face people and I'm like, man. Anyway, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, I always find it cool. Like personally, I think that something is lost when a transition like this is made because it's with a lot of Skyrim's mechanics, whereas Oblivion don't necessarily have them. But I'm really excited to see, especially locations and NPCs and stuff, recreated. So I'm definitely excited for it. I just know that it won't necessarily be the same. Well, obviously.
Right.
But a lot of aspects about it intrigue me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's been so much talk. We've spoken to so many people who have talked about the impact that Morrowind had on them, and stuff like that. So having something like Skywind, for example, come along it's an intriguing idea to me. I've always been curious about, what folks are talking about and, stuff like that, but have never taken the plunge myself. I'm still having enough fun in Skyrim that I haven't gotten out of it yet.
Right.
So, having an opportunity to do that might be interesting.
Well, we shall see. Let's see what else we have.
A favorite Daedric prince other than Sheogorath?
Sure.
Aw. I can't pick Sheogorath? No?
I have a feeling
I want cheese for everyone. That's my favorite.
I think this is somebody who is intentionally limiting the scope of your choices because they know something about you.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I like I can't remember who it is, but there's one of them who always likes to cause mischief for people. And in Oblivion, like you would go to this party and you would get this staff that you would have to shoot at the dinner party, and as you do it, all the guests lose all of their clothes and run around naked and begin punching you, and you have to escape the castle naked, and it's just princes that toy with you in a fun manner.
Yeah, who is that?
Sanguine? Would that be Sanguine?
I think
Sanguine,
that sounds
yes,
like
because you
Sanguine.
got Sanguine's Rose, I believe it was called.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was an artifact named that.
Yeah,
at least.
he's
But
the one that messes with you in Skyrim.
I have some good memories of that.
Cool. Yeah, I like him too. Or her. I guess they're gender neutral, but let's see. I don't know. That's a really. I guess I can't really pin one myself.
I've been kind of partial to Boethia because Boethia is an interesting character in lore in that is a Daedric prince who seems to be alternately kind of a good guy and a bad guy. You know, there are instances in lore where you see Boethia causing all kinds of problems, right? But then other instances where you see where Boethia is kind of portrayed as a more benevolent kind of a Daedric prince and something of a strategic genius, you know? And so I feel like there's a lot of interesting flavors and as a consequence, potential in Boethia. So I kind of like Boethia, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's see.
Here's one more towards you, Stu.
Okay.
How could you roleplay the overarching enemy in the Epicosity project? How can you roleplay the defeat of the Puppet Master enemy?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. One of the things that we don't think about in that is what the end game is sometimes, right? So, for people who aren't familiar with it, what was it? Episodes 3 and 4, maybe, of the podcast, or 4 and 5. You take the Wayback Machine, but the concept was with Project Epicosity was that you were going to try to come up with a villain of your own design that would be grand enough and powerful enough to be responsible for creating all the situations presented in the quest lines we find in the game. And by doing so, you can use this larger threat, this macro threat, if you will, to kind of tie all the quests together in an interesting way that makes it conceivable for you to do things like have warriors that would do the mage quest line, or things like that. It gives you more opportunity to kind of tie things together. The other deal with that too was that the concept was you would create a character who would become the Harbinger, and then you would make that character into a follower, and then the next character would become the Archmage, and you'd kind of go through those quests like that, so that you would have sort of these 4 powerful individuals in the Archmage and the Harbinger and the Listener and the Guildmaster of the Thieves Guild, who are all tied together in a single party led by the Dragonborn. And then you'd take those characters and you would pursue these larger quests like the dragons and the vampires and Mirak as kind of a team, right? That was sort of the idea of the Epicosity project, but the foundation of that was that you had a larger antagonist of your own creation that lorded over all of these things, a person who was powerful enough to control Alduin, to prompt Alduin into doing what Alduin is doing, to control the vampires and prompt them to doing what they're doing, right? So you have this larger thing that you can use to explain why Skyrim is going to hell in a handcart and you're being forced to try and fix it all. So the question is, like, what do you do to resolve that larger conflict, right? How do you resolve that conflict at the end? And I guess my sense is, do you need to? Maybe you don't need to. Maybe this antagonist exists at such a high level that this is an individual who's never going to truly be defeated, and the best that you can hope for would be to destroy their minions and wreck their plans.
setback.
Deal them a significant setback. Or if you have chosen that this antagonist is going to be, say, one of the Daedric princes, maybe you set aside one of those side quests, set it aside and save it for your final confrontation and use some mods to change it up, or use a quest mod, for example, as your final confrontation. I think you'd have to research that. I know that in my own plans with my own project, I hadn't come to those conclusions yet. For me, it was really just a set piece that allowed me to tie things together in a way that made sense to my brain. So
cool. Huge plot device.
Yeah. Macro.
It sounds like it sounds really interesting. And one thing I really liked is the expression you used, hell in a handcart, considering a handcart is sort of the main antagonist of my own series, the looming shadow that tries to control everything and sends these plans and
the
takes
evil
over towns.
Dobin.
Yeah, because Dobin takes over towns in season 2 and we have to besiege the towns. And so that was a very fitting expression in that scenario.
I thought you might like that.
Great.
That's funny.
That is funny.
All right. What else? Anything else we got?
Let's go with, has anything in real life helped influence your characters in game, or like developing their story, etc.?
I think all personal experiences in some way shapes what you create. You know, like
whether consciously or subconsciously. Yeah, I would agree.
Like if you meet, people you interact with, their traits and scenarios that you find yourself in that you can translate to screen. I think you have a tendency to do that, as you said, subconsciously or consciously.
There's also choices in character type, whether we get back to the earlier episodes, do you pick characters who are like you, opposite of you, familiar character traits from people you know or yourself, things that maybe you hoped would be manifest in your own life but are only manifest in your characters.
I think.
Yeah, I think they play back and forth. I think there are times when I've written dialogue for characters where, a character is sort of on his high horse telling people that they need to be honest with themselves about this or that. Are they being realistic? And then
the people who are totally not realistic.
Yeah. And then I'll look at something like that, and then I'll look at some aspect of my own personal life and ask myself the same question. Am I being honest with myself here?
Are you Robard?
That kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then there are characters like characters like Robard who says all the things that I wish I could say. So. Yeah, I think it plays back and forth.
Right.
I think there are aspects of what I have done with some of my characters that are influenced by things that have happened in my own personal life or experiences I've had. But
yeah, I think with my own recently ended character, Enaroth, I think there's a big part of her that it's probably more than coincidental, coincided with my own vested interest in the whole human trafficking thing, which is why her story took such a dark, twisted turn at the end.
Yeah.
And then trying to bring her out of that and, trying to find some hope in that really nasty underbelly of the world.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a big reason why I ended her on a positive high note.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. I know with your writing, you've done a lot of writing around Enaroth, obviously. And I did a fair amount of writing around Fleet's story as well. And there were aspects of his story, especially the stuff that had to do with his very difficult and strained familial relationships.
Sure.
That when I was writing those parts, because they were scripted, when I was writing those pieces, there were times when they moved me enough that, I was writing them and I was bawling at the same time. Like there's something there that resonates, and I can't say what it is. Maybe it's subconscious, maybe it's not.
Right.
But I think every character that we create in this game, especially the ones that we find ourselves really invested in, have some aspect of our own personality or personal life embedded in. That's what makes them interesting, and that's what makes them compelling.
Right.
So Yeah.
So it makes them fun to watch.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Makes them interesting and unpredictable, maybe.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know. This might be what's your favorite unknown mod?
I don't know. I don't know it yet. It's unknown.
I think maybe little known.
Yes.
Oh, let me pull up my mod list.
Yeah, I'd have to look through mine.
I can say for me,
4K tree bark.
my not
Yeah, definitely.
that's Carl's. I don't want to steal his thunder. For me, it's been the Imperial mail.
Oh,
I love it. I'm using that as kind of the backdrop for Vander's whole story.
Oh, totally.
And it was one of these that I just kind of I dug and dug and dug until I found a collection of 3 or 4 mods that I plugged into this latest story, ones I'd never used before. And Imperial Mail is super fun. It just gives you these really great quests to deliver letters, and that's what Vander's all about. He's a courier, you know? And it's so awesome. I can walk into any tavern and I can get a letter, and every one of those letters represents a mission. You know, and now I'm out of here. You know, I got 24 hours. I got to go. Boom, 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 you know, and it's super fun. What I find interesting about it is that one mod, I've completely embraced it like 150%.
Sure.
Whereas I think for a lot of people who are playing like just kind of a character that's not focused on delivery of mail,
right,
that would seem like a pain in the ass. I don't want to do that. I'm going the other way because I got to do this quest. His entire life and all of his direction around Skyrim is driven by where he's going to make his next delivery and what adventure ensues either along the way or when he gets there. Mm-hmm. So for me, I love that mod because I never know where the next delivery is going to take me. Until I pick that letter up and look at it, I have no idea where I'm going next. And that is sort of the interesting part of it for me, is the mystery of, you know, where are we going next, and who knows what's going to happen on the way. So
William's one of our fans on Facebook, and
yeah,
he particularly likes a lot of what's going on in that role play because he's a postal carrier.
Is he really? Yeah. That's awesome. I love
relatable.
it.
Very relatable.
Yeah.
I thought that was an incredible little bit of information. You know, it takes all kinds to make this story resonate. And I thought that was fabulous. I put a question up the other day about what's your favorite part of Rune Runner. And he says, well, as I work for the Postal Service, the whole concept of running around delivering messages is something I'm familiar with.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Great. You got something for us, Carl? What are you looking at on your mod list there?
Well, like, as a machinima creator, there's this mod called Review Studio. I don't know if you guys use it.
No, never heard of that.
But essentially, it lets you teleport your character into these green screen and blue screen rooms. So if you know how to video edit, you can have your character do something, then you can just remove the background later and paste them over something else. And it has so many neat uses, and it has about like... it has a couple of downloads, but not too many. So to me, Review Studio and just the ability to green screen and blue screen, especially character for screenshots and thumbnail purposes, boop, take a screenshot, remove the blue, bam, they're done. I don't have to sit there and like cut them out of the background painstakingly. So for me, that's a big help as a machinima creator.
Yeah, that's a good one. I have to admit, I did attempt using that mod once before. I didn't realize what the name of it was, however. Unfortunately, I could not... I think the video editor I was using at the time just couldn't handle kind of green screen stuff. I'm a lot more sophisticated in my production now than I was back then, so I could never make it work.
Chroma key options now with Premiere. It's fantastic.
I'll have to try it. What tools are you using, Carl, for video production? What do you use?
Well... I've used Sony Vegas since I started. It's the software that I know the most. And, you know, when you have a lot of years of experience with the software, like you know it in and out, you know all the shortcuts, you know how to optimize your workflow. So that's the video editing software that works well for me. And I just record with Fraps.
Hey, it works. The thing is,
works.
That you use what works.
Yeah.
I think we've got a cross section of available tools on our machines, probably for all of us. You know, I tend to be an Adobe guy, but that's what I learned on. We've done a humongous amount of production just using Windows Movie Maker, People have made fun of us for that, but at the same time, we were getting content out, and that was the point.
That's how I started. Movie makers. Wow, good memories.
Yeah.
But
and
Sony
some
Vegas
bad
is
ones.
good. Yeah, and some bad ones.
Yeah, the import times were heinous, but yeah.
You don't really want a preview, do you?
Yeah.
That'll be ready in the morning.
All right, we can take a couple more, and then we gotta let Carl go.
And there may be some other reasons
rest.
for us to have a break.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can think of one big one right now. I gotta go. No, just kidding. What do we got?
Just kind of harkening back a little bit to epicosity, and we did touch on this, but
Well,
who to make the overarching enemy, and I think kind of need to break out of the who it is rather than what is it
or why it is.
I mean, it just could be a concept as much as anything. I know,
right?
We've kind of already gone over, but with the was that Fleet story?
Fleet?
The end.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
The end game, or
with Fleet,
who the overarching villain was.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what's going on in Skyrim. I mean, literally everything is hitting the fan. The Skyrim is basically the nexus for everything bad that's happening in Tamriel at this moment in time. It's a space of 2 years where it's just absolute chaos.
Mayhem.
And maybe the enemy is chaos itself. Maybe the enemy is some kind of abstract concept. Maybe it's not an individual. Maybe I think the temptation is to say who's causing the chaos. But
right.
maybe there is some unspoken, ununderstood, subconscious thing,
Right.
that's causing Skyrim to be the lightning rod for everything that's going wrong in the world at that moment. And maybe there is no defeating the chaos. Maybe the idea is that you're just going to do everything you can along with your comrades to try to mitigate what's happening and hope it comes to an end someday.
Maybe it's the Dwemer.
Yeah, who knows?
They disappeared. Maybe they're causing chaos so they can come back.
It's the
whatever
Grey
you
Bears.
want.
Whoa, that blew my mind, Joe. I like that one.
So
Seriously.
I don't think it has to be a solidified individual. It could be just kind of a nebulous concept.
Yeah, that's what I think.
These were fantastic questions. I
Yeah.
love being able to get
ones.
live questions.
Yeah, I think so too. One more question for you, Carl. This is an interesting one. How do you role play a game that has you stuck on a certain path with a fixed backstory?
Ooh, that's a good question. But that's exactly what I did as a kid. Like, let's say I had like a story-driven game as a kid. I remember I role-played with the game Jack 2. And essentially, as a kid, like, you don't have money to constantly buy new games. So you got to make the games you have last. So whenever I finished a game and I played through it again, I would make my own reasons for doing things. I would say, oh, I'm doing this because of this, and try to role play like survival, like, oh, I have to survive in the streets of this city. Even though there's no actual need to, I would pretend like I would have to eat and have to do this and make up reasons for the events of the main storyline happening just in my head and just role playing. I think it's quite possible in almost every game as long as you have the imagination to do it. So for me personally, like, my experiences doing that as a kid with games to just make them last longer has just enabled me now to look at things and be like, oh, this is the actual reason that's happening, and just seeing these coincidences that happen in the world and try to weave a story together from that has been a side effect of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, if you're in a story currently with a character you want to continue playing, but you're less than excited about where you're at in the story, find a reason to reinvent yourself, crank the difficulty up to legendary, and then say to yourself that the next time your character dies, he's going to wake up with amnesia and his life is going to totally change. Or he is going to, discover
she.
religion and move off to a completely different set of tasks. Find a way to just reinvent, maybe. I don't know.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
It's like usually when I do that, if I'm feeling like recently in my main quest series, I had my character down in a tomb killing Draugrs, and there had been a lot of Draugr killing. So I was like, okay, I need to shake this formula up a little bit. So as the character was exiting the tomb, I had a cutscene where you would see these mercenaries arrive in Iverstead, where, because she was in the Shroud Hearth Barrow, and they would arrive, they would ask the innkeeper questions like, oh, where is she? And then they would go over to the tomb and ambush her just as she exited to sort of give the viewer some like, oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, there's, something is shook up. So as you said, if you're not happy with where you're at, you have the tools and the power to make it interesting. You just got to figure out how and then just deliver that little twist.
Yeah. Just execute on that. And sometimes you can do that completely on your own through, what's going on in your own brain as far as your narrative goes. Mm-hmm. Or you can goose the concept with some kind of a mod that might reinforce whatever it is. So these are really great questions. Thanks, everybody, for all the great questions. I wish we had more time to continue to ask Carl questions, but we've had him here for close to 2 hours now, and we certainly really, really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. As I think I'm gonna sleep well tonight. I've had a good evening.
Good. Well, everybody, hey, Voices from the Dark. Get out there, check out that content. Even better, check out his Patreon as well, his Patreon campaign. If you like what you're seeing out there, throw a little bit in the kitty. I know I did. And you know what?
Thank you.
Speaking of kitty.
kitty.
So, you know what? I think this would be a great time to maybe have Kajor introduce the show for us. We did have Leonidas Aventus introduce the show when he came on, when Rykon came on. So Kajor might be an interesting addition to our menagerie of announcers. Are you game for something like that?
If I know what I'm going to say, I can say it.
We will feed you. We will feed you the lines. So let's see. With Rykon, we did. You're listening to
Character
Crusade Skyrim Roleplay Workshop. That's what we did.
Can we trim it just that little bit, since Voices from the Dark is more than Skyrim? Just do Character Crusade
Roleplay
Workshop.
Yeah, you're listening to Character Crusade Roleplay Workshop.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
You're listening to Character Crusade Roleplay Workshop.
That was awesome.
Totally epic.
Yeah, very
fantastic.
On demand.
Hopefully that works.
That does. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Carl. You have a good morning?
It's 2 a.m., so it's like
go to bed.
sort of middle of the night.
Yeah.
Greet the sunrise for us as it's barely peeking below the horizon there now.
Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. We'd love to have you on again in the future. So you may get a tweet from me in a few months. We could have you on again and see how things are going, see what else you're up to.
I'd love to. This has been super lovely. So any chance that it may happen sometime in the future, I'd be down for that.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you, everybody who's been listening in. We are going to take a quick break, 5 or 10 minutes. Then we're going to jump back with a few quick announcements, and then we are going to call it a night. Thank you, everybody. We are back.
This is our front, not our back.
Is our music still going?
It is here.
Okay. It's really good music.
It's fantastic.
We are back in the studio after taking a short break. We'd like to address you a number of items having to do with.
What the hell are you doing?
I wish I had a cigarette. Be like Edward R. Murrow, just give the updates. And well, in token, this updates brought to you by Marlboro. So in the news, no. So we've already talked a little bit about the podcast updates. We did that prior to talking to Carl. So we're going to skip that. We're going to do some channel updates. We've got a little bit to talk about with TAMRIEL Vault, which is super fun. We're going to go over that, and then we will sign off for the night and let you all go about your business and play whatever games that need playing out there, as there are a lot. So, CouchWarrior, I am back in business, sort of. Sort of, yeah. I got the PC back, and the game runs beautifully on it.
It's looking very shiny, by the way.
Yes, it is.
They must have buffed and waxed it.
I don't know. It looks like they wiped the top a little bit, but
maybe they got all the grimy fingerprints off of it.
Yeah, they didn't blow any of the cracker crumbs out of the keyboard. That's for sure. So
you and your Ritz.
I know. The issue I'm having right now is a little technical issue with external displays, multiple displays, which makes it impossible for me to use my external recording device until I get that figured out.
Yikes.
So that means that I have an issue to resolve. However, it doesn't mean that I will stop producing content. I've got a backup plan, so I will continue to produce content. It may suffer a little bit from some drop in frames because I can't use the external recording device. But I will be producing episodes of Rune Runner and possibly Mortal Blade.
Cool.
I'm thinking about holding off on the Mortal Blade episodes until I have the Elgato working.
Sure.
Just because if we get in there and fight an elemental dragon, I just see a lot of stuff going on and a lot of drop in frames and stuff like that.
Well, yeah.
So I feel like if I want to have a shot at defeating one of those dragons, I need every advantage, and having lag isn't going to help me. So I think what I'll be doing, however, is...
I think you should play it on my machine.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that'd be great, actually. So I'm going to be working on Rune Runner. I'm going to be working on Rune Runner, and we are going to be working on some episodes of our new 3-play, which is a work in progress. We'll work on that a little bit tonight. So those are basically the updates. As far as when you can expect to see an episode of Rune Runner, I'm hoping to have an episode out next week.
Cool.
So
I'm looking forward to that.
If things go my way, that's
the great thing about this on YouTube. Every time someone watches it, you'll be saying next week.
I know, right?
Next week on Character Crusade, a new episode of Rune Runner. Next week.
Yeah.
Next week.
This video is timeless.
It is.
In that way, yeah. So from now on till the end of time, you can always expect content next week. Son of a bitch. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I have to tell you, when I was like 6, 7 years old or something, we were in a TGI Fridays, and there was a sign above the bar that said free beer tomorrow. It's kind of
always coming tomorrow.
Kind of thing you don't forget.
That's generous.
Yeah.
It's very generous.
I was here yesterday. It said tomorrow. It's still tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that. This is kind of a dragon break in the podcast is what this is.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway.
TAMRIEL Vault.
TAMRIEL Vault. Let's talk about TAMRIEL Vault.
I've spent way too much time, I think, on TAMRIEL Vault just reading of late. I am so completely enamored by a lot of the stories that people write. It's fabulous.
We are preparing to get back to work on TAMRIEL Vault content now that I have recovered my gaming rig. So we'll be working on episodes of that over the next couple of weeks. We've got a couple planned. Joe has already started working a little bit on a character concept, trying some play that might relate to what we're doing there.
Yep.
So that is all good news. The other thing that we wanted to mention is that Tamriel Vault has recently completed a contest they were having for exotic character builds. And we thought it might be just sort of fun to mention some of the people who have been chosen as the winners and runners-up in that contest. First place has gone to a user named ShinJin. You'll have to slap me virtually if I screw up any of your names. For creating a rogue, and you should definitely check out the TAMRIELvault.com homepage. The exotics contest and the results of it are posted there for the world to see, and you can link to these builds, which are really interesting. I think some kind of cool and unexpected things happened with this challenge, because the challenge was to kind of create some concepts around these exotics, which are unplayable character races. So first place, as I said, went to ShinJin, and I want to say it's pronounced Jojai, maybe, or Joji. It's J-O apostrophe J-I, and the rogue. And so you can link off to that and kind of get the story on that. Second place went to Lissette for a concept called the Exterminator. And then third place went to Vargr for a concept called the Grave Worm. Cool. And this is just more examples of awesome content. I think one of the things that I find to be really impressive about Tamriel Vault is not just the volume of content out there, but the things that people do there to prompt others to think outside the box and create new stuff, which is pretty cool. I think you get some of the most creative content when you create a box and try to work within it and see what you can come up with. Quite often, it's limiting the scope of what you're doing that creates the most unique ideas as opposed to expanding scope. So I think that is pretty awesome. If you're interested in getting out there and checking it out, you can go to TAMRIELvault.com. We, of course, have 3 Tamriel Vault builds out there. We are working on more, and you can expect to see a lot more content like that coming up in the near future. With that kind of wraps the show. We wanted to just thank all of you listeners who have been loyal and have been helping us out, have been attending the live stream and making all of this stuff possible. This is CC032, Voices from the Dark. Thank you so much. If you're interested in supporting us, you can go to Patreon. You can go to patreon.charactercrusade.com. You can find all the information you need there to contribute. Even $1 a month is going to help us expand what we're doing, add more interesting features, content, etc., etc. And I think I'm in particular very excited about where we're going over the next 6 months. We've going to have some interesting guests coming up, but more importantly, I think we've got some really innovative and interesting new concepts and projects we're working on here. And I think it's very exciting what we could see come out of Character Crusade over the next 6 months. So if you remember from the last episode, we're talking about the Live roleplay framework. If you don't know about that, just check out episode 31. That will give you some background information on that, perhaps a little bit. There's also a channel update on CouchWarrior TV that kind of explains in a bit more detail what that's all about. So Joe and I are working on that framework now, and we're coming up with a way that we can apply it and allow those of you in the community who want to participate in the live framework. And then this 3-play, I think, is going to be very interesting. We've got some very unique concepts for how we're going to roll it out, and you can look forward to seeing episodes of that come out over the next few weeks. And until next time, keep on gaming, keep on playing Skyrim, and thank you so much for attending our live stream. We will see you in 2 weeks. Not bad.
See ya. Bye.